Now that All Out has happened, it is time for my yearly rededication of AEW. And it starts with my first five takeaways from AEW All In Wembley. Here we go.
People have been asking me to be the best in the world. Why, Eddie, why? I'm better than you.
Why I'm surrender. I was in the back smoking a joint with Van Dam.
You know it.
Number one. We got to start with the women because there's a lot going on. I want to hand it to Creative. Creative found a way to include Soraya. I wasn't sure they were going to be able to do it. It seemed weird not having her on the card, especially because she's Soraya, but they found something to do with the return of Jamie Hayter. That puts her right back in the main event spot. I'm good with that. Number two, I kind of clumped the women's matches in together here. I know I shouldn't do that, but I am. Hear me out. So there's two sides to this coin. The first side is the good news. The good news is that the AEW Women's Championship match I felt like went really well. I felt like Tony Storm and Mariah May had a great story. It kind of culminated in as big of a rivalry as Britt Baker versus Jamie Hayter was, in just kind of this, teacher mentor ultimate angle for the world championship. That being said, though, going back to one Britt Baker, DMD, uh, they're kind of on the fence about that one. Mercedes Moné had a fantastic entrance, but the word online really is one of many opinions, all of those being mostly negative. If you ask O'Shea, you'll never get him to hate Mercedes Monet, but I saw a lot of hate online. I saw a lot of people saying that this match was a dud and it was because of her. I also heard a lot of people saying it's because of Britt Baker. Both of these women are great, and I can't really say I would put a blame on anybody. It could be their positioning on the card, but I'm going to leave it to the people because I don't know. Like I said, I'm doing my yearly rededication starting now. But there is a lot of talk that this was a stinker and they should never have a rematch. And a lot of fingers are being pointed about whose fault it is, but I'll leave it to the people to let me know. Um, so that's the two-parter about that. Number three, my takeaway being that is Sting retired, because Sting has returned here, and I don't know if this is a one-off, but going into the Darby Allin coffin match with Jack Perry, real glass, which again I gotta say, this should be the last time we should do the real glass thing. I get it. Wembley anniversary. One more time, one more FU to Punk, one more reference to the Wembley incident that made him the scapegoat. But can we please leave that in the past after this? I feel like that's the last viable time you can bring it up. So this is the last time we should bring it up. And Jack Perry won, which puts me in an odd position. Appreciative of Jack Perry, but is Darby actually going to get a main event push? Where does Darby go after this? Because if he doesn't climb the ladder, he's subsequently lost in the ether for another year, which seems entirely too unfair. And if Sting is coming back, which I would hope he's not, and this is a one off, why would we need Darby with Sting again? You know what I mean? I don't get where Darby lands after this. I would hope that Creative has a great idea heading after All In. Um, Number four, we got to talk about, Bryan Danielson becoming the AEW World Champion. Great decision, easy decision to make. I'll get into Swerve and my thoughts on his title reign at another time, but this was the right decision. And he said he was retiring after this, and I didn't feel like they had really put Danielson in the position to retire. So, I mean, it's going to be a great last year. Unfortunately, he's probably going to get the run that Edge would have wanted in WWE. We'll just have to see how things go, but very happy for him. They did that very well, and I'm just glad that, they made the right decision here. But my last takeaway is from way back in the night, Ricochet debuts on AEW, King Ricochet, and he looked great, did great things in a match with some great people. Um, I was expecting partly maybe the Hurt Syndicate as they're newly renamed, but I'm good with just Ricochet. Hopefully, just like Will Ospreay, he elevates to the top of the card very quickly. In this case, in a more recognizing kind of way than it would be just popping the big name at the top. I want good creative for all of these guys though overall, but I am happy Ricochet is somewhere where he can become a main eventer without having to necessarily grind the way there, if that makes sense. But those are my 5 takeaways from All In. Give me your opinions. Let me know whose fault it is. If you thought that Britt Baker and Mercedes Moné had a bad match, but that was my 5 takeaways. And from here on out, at least for the next 30 days, I will be getting as much AEW content as I can consume. I don't know if I'm going to be watching everything live, but I'm rededicating myself because I want to know if they got any better, if they got any worse, where creative is, and if I can become a dedicated AEW fan again. We'll see.
People have been asking me